Hey, hi everyone. This is Sai from Let's Upgrade. So let's talk about how to get your certificate. It's very simple. You will see two links in the description. Number one is the place where you have to go and mark your attendance. Marking your attendance tells us, like, okay, you are a legit student who have attended this particular session. Link number two is your assignment. This is where your 90% of the priority is. You have to go and submit the assignment that is given to you in this particular session. Once you're done submitting that assignment, we will be evaluating that. We will send you an email. If you get the passing criteria, then only we will give you the certificate on a particular date that is mentioned again in the description. Please check these three things, and this is the way how you will get a certificate from Let's Upgrade. Number one, mark your attendance. Number two, just go ahead and upload your assignment. Check for the email that you have received it, yes or no. What is the feedback that you have received from your trainer? Number three, check on which date the certificates will be released. Thank you. Bye. All the best. Happy learning.
Hello friends, my name is Yadnesh Nikam and today we will learn about AWS CloudShell. What is AWS CloudShell? AWS CloudShell is ready to use command line in your browser that lets you manage AWS resources without installing anything. In simple words, it is AWS CLI in your web browser. Let us understand some key features. First thing first, it is browser based, which means it is accessible from any web browser and no local installation is required. It comes up with some pre-installed tools like AWS CLI, Git, Python, Node.js, Docker, and more. The best part about AWS Cloud Shell is that you need not to configure any credential. It will use your AWS console credentials and IAM permissions automatically. It makes file transfer very easy. Basically, you can upload and download from your Cloud Shell environment very easily. Let us understand how Cloud Shell works with some hands-on examples. Now, we will perform some hands-on activities on Cloud Shell. For that, you need to log into your AWS account and click on this logo at the top. It is loading the Cloud Shell. Let us wait to load it completely. Let us explore the Cloud Shell now. First thing, we'll try to find out which user this Cloud Shell uses. So we will use this Linux command who am I. So basically it is a Cloud Shell user. You can run also pwd command to find out where you are currently. Okay, let us explore few other details. As I mentioned, like AWS Cloud Shell will come up with pre-installed tools. So let's find that out. First tool that I mentioned about was AWS CLI itself. So how to check if it is already there? You can run this command AWS version. Okay, so AWS CLI is already there, version 2.32.17. Okay, you can also check what is the Python version, Python version. It's Python 3.9.25. Apart from Python, we had Git as well, which is pre-installed. So Git version. Okay, so we have Git 2.50.1. Okay, and those who are from DevOps background, they must be looking for Docker tool. So you can run Docker version. So Docker 25.0.13 is already installed over here. So best part about Cloud Shell is that all the necessary applications for developers, they are already available. Okay, let me clear the terminal. Now, as you might be wondering, most of the AWS services are regional. So which region is configured for this particular Cloud Shell? So you can clearly see AP-South-1, which means the Mumbai region is already configured. But how to confirm that? How to confirm that with command? So which command you can use? So here is the command echo $AWS underscore region. This is predefined environment variable. You just need to look for its value. So you see the value is AP South 1. Okay. Now let's understand what credentials are configured. If you remember correctly, I mentioned that you need not to configure any kind of credentials. Okay. So normal AWS commands will start working right after you log in to your cloud, right after you basically start your cloud shell. Okay, so you can check those details anyway by AWS configure list command. Okay, so it shows your access key, secret key, as in those are encoded and encrypted. But best part about this is that you need not to configure anything. Okay, so this was the overview of AWS Cloud Shell. So now that we have explored the AWS Cloud Shell environment, let us go deeper. Let us play with some of the AWS services with some hands-on examples. Okay. So first service that we will learn today with AWS CLI, or let's say AWS Cloud Shell, is AWS IAM. IAM stands for Identity and Access Management. If you see on console through UI, it looks like this. If you see, right now I am having only one user with name Yadnesh. So let us try to run some commands. Okay. So let me list all the available user. Okay, using command. So AWS IAM, which is name of the service, and then we have to write list users. So it will list IAM user for this AWS account. So right now it listed only one user because only one user is available at the moment. Okay. Now let me clear my terminal. One important thing which I wanted to tell you was you can refer official documentation for AWS commands. You need not to, let's say, memorize all these commands. It's very easy. And also at the end of this video, we will share a link for a GitHub account which has all these basic commands. Okay. So otherwise, how you can try to, let's say, play with these commands, you can write AWS and name of the service, and then you can write help. So help option will provide you all the available options associated with this command. So this will help you to work with these kind of commands without remembering them. Okay, you can press Q button to come out of it. Let me clear my terminal. Okay, now let us create a new user. Okay, so to create a new user, the command is very simple. AWS, again, as service name is IAM, you have to write IAM, create, press tab button, and user. Okay, create user. Then you have to give the name to the user, right? So you will write hyphen hyphen username and name of the user. For instance, I'll give the name as, let's say, Cloud Shell user. Okay, so it created Cloud Shell user. Let us try to list all the available users. So I'll press up arrow and try to run the previous command, which is AWS IAM list users. So you see, it listed both the users, Cloud Shell user that we created just now, and now user which was already available, which was Yadnesh. Okay. Now, simply by creating user, we won't be able to do anything. We have to attach some policies to it. In other words, we have to give some permissions to that user. Okay. So let us give two permissions over here, like S3 full access, Amazon S3 full access, and Amazon EC2 full access. How to do that? Again, we have to use a command for that. You can refer official documentation for that. Okay. So the command is, let me clear the terminal, AWS, then IAM, because this is IAM service, and then attach user policy, not policy, user. You can press tab button, user policy. Then you have to give the username, user name of the user was Cloud Shell user. You can press tab button. Okay, and then you have to provide the policy ARN. Okay, so hyphen hyphen policy ARN. You can use tab button so that it will prompt the entire command for you, and then write this carefully, or refer official documentation, which is, let's say, ARN colon AWS colon IAM 2 times colon AWS, and then colon and policy, and then the actual policy, which is Amazon S3 full access. So Amazon S3 full access. Okay, and hit enter. Okay, so it attached this policy. Just press the up arrow. Okay, and change S3 full access to EC2 full access. So we are giving two permissions over here, S3 full access and EC2 full access. Hit enter. As there is no error, the command worked successfully. Okay, and then the best part is that you can also run a command to view and check the attached user policies. Okay, and there is a command for that, AWS IAM list attached user policies, and then you have to give the username. Name of the user was CloudShell user. Okay, and you can hit enter. So it will list the policies attached to that user. You see Amazon EC2 full access and Amazon S3 full access. Okay, now this is how you can attach any policies or permissions to your user. Let me clear the terminal. Now let us remove this user, and before removing also detach these policies. Okay, so that we are doing everything end to end. Okay, so the command is simple. You can press up arrow, bring that command for, let's say, Amazon S3 full access, and instead of attach user policy, you can guess what I'm going to write. It is detach user policy, and you have to hit enter. Okay, and then press up arrow. Instead of S3 full access, use EC2 full access and detach that policy as well. And now you can press up arrow and bring the command which will list the attached policies for that particular user. So as we have detached all the policies, you do not see any policies in the attached policies section over here. Okay, now let's remove this user. Okay, the command is simple. For creating user, we used AWS IAM create user and hyphen hyphen username. To delete user, we will use AWS IAM delete user hyphen hyphen username and the actual username, okay, of the user that you want to delete. AWS IAM delete user. Okay, and then username, name of the user, hit enter, and you can simply, let's say, list user again just to confirm that user got deleted. AWS IAM list users. Okay, so now you have only one user. So that's it about AWS IAM using CloudShell. Now that we have learned about how to use AWS IAM service using CloudShell, let us explore few other services like S3 buckets. Okay. Now let me show you what I have in my S3 bucket on console. Okay. So there is already one bucket which is available with name Yadnesh 876767. Okay. So this name has to be unique, that we need to remember. Okay. Now let us list the AWS S3 buckets using commands. So CloudShell is all about commands. Okay, and you need not to worry about remembering all the commands. As I mentioned previously, you can go to AWS official documentation like this, AWS CLI commands for S3, something like this. You can search, you can click over here, okay, and you will get all the S3 commands. So for now, we will list the buckets. Okay, so you see ls command is already here. You can click on ls. There are multiple options to this command. You can scroll down, and once you scroll down, you will find examples which are easy. Okay, so AWS S3 ls, this command will list the buckets available in your AWS account. Okay, so let's use it. AWS S3 ls. So as I mentioned and showed you before, I already had one bucket created in my account, so it displayed it. Okay, so let us create a new bucket using command. Okay, to create a new bucket, command is make bucket mb. Okay, so you can click on back button and look for mb command, or you can simply, because as I'm aware about that command, so you can click mb over here, make bucket, and it will show the page for that. Okay, so you can simply scroll like this and look for the command. So AWS S3 make bucket, and then S3, we have to give this part S3 colon double slash, okay, in front of the bucket name, and bucket name has to be unique across the globe, not just in your AWS account. Okay, so let us create a new bucket, AWS S3 make bucket MB, and then S3 colon double slash, and give any name. Let's say, as my name is unique, and then I can use some numbers after that. Let's say 9768, maybe this will work. Okay, so yeah, there was no such bucket with 9768. Okay, now let us list the buckets again. AWS S3 LS. Okay, so there are two buckets. This is the recent one which we created now. Okay, so this is how you can create a bucket using AWS CloudShell or AWS CLI commands. Okay, now what we need to do is, let us upload a file inside that bucket. Okay, so for that, let me create one file first. You can use vi editor, nano editor, or simply echo command to create a file. Let's say echo we are learning AWS, let's AWS Cloud Shell. This is the content of the file, and the name is, let's say, file1.txt. Okay, let me do ls and check the content of the file. Okay, let's see how to upload this file to our bucket using commands. So to upload the file, we have to use AWS S3 cp command, copy command. Okay, so again you can go here, write cp, okay, here, and you will get the command. So as I already know the command, I don't want to go through this, but you can definitely refer official documentation. Okay, so let me clear the terminal first. File is already available over here, so the command is AWS S3 cp, name of the file file1.txt, and then name of the S3 bucket. While providing, as in the complete path of S3 bucket, while providing the path, always write S3 colon double slash. And what is the name of your bucket? Yadnesh. You can check over here as well. Let's list the bucket first to get the name, because I have cleared the terminal. Or you can also check over here. You can go and refresh the page. You will see two buckets created, Yadnesh 9768. That was the name. Okay, so AWS cp, sorry, S3, then cp, name of the file, which is file1.txt, and then name of the bucket, S3 colon double slash. Let's copy that name, Yadnesh 9768. Okay, so you see it uploaded the file. You can go here and also check, and you will see file1.txt available inside bucket through console. But how to check this from command line? So we all know AWS S3 LS will list the buckets, but what about the contents of buckets, right? So you can use the same command, but you have to provide the name of the bucket. Okay, Yadnesh 9768. Okay, let us upload one more file to it and I'll tell you why I'm doing this. Okay, so let us create one more file. Let's say echo, we can put any content. Okay, like AWS is awesome, and file name is file2.txt. Let us do ls over here, check the content of file2. Okay, AWS is awesome, and then let us try to upload that file to the same bucket. Okay, so you see I brought up that command AWS S3CP, and now I'll change file1.txt to file2.txt. Okay, and then I'll hit enter. So it uploaded both the files. Now if I do AWS S3 LS and the bucket name, it should show me two files. Okay, now let us understand how to delete a particular file inside the bucket. Okay, so AWS S3, you can refer official documentation again. To remove a file, you have to use rm and then complete file path s3 colon slash slash name of the bucket, and let's say we will remove the file 1.txt. 1.txt. Let us see what it does. Okay, so it deleted. If I list now the content of the bucket, it will show me only file2.txt. Okay, now we have to remove the bucket. Okay, so before removing the bucket, we always need to ensure that bucket has to be empty. Now imagine, to remove each file, if we had to run the command every time to remove each file, it would have been difficult, right? So instead of running this command like aws s3 rm and giving file name, what you can do is you can give the bucket name and at the end write recursive. So whatever files and folders are available inside that particular bucket, it will delete, it will remove everything. Okay, so let us do that. Okay, so right now there was only one file, file2.txt, so it removed it. But imagine if there would have been thousands of files and folders, it would have removed everything. Okay, let me clear my terminal. Okay, and do aws s3, or I'll bring that command. Let's list the content of this bucket. So nothing is there now. Okay, let us try to remove the bucket now. AWS S3. Now to remove the files, we have used rm command. To remove the bucket, we have to use rb command, remove bucket. Okay, and then use the name of the bucket. So the complete name with s3 colon slash slash and yadnesh hyphen 9768. Okay, so now if I do AWS S3 LS, there is only one bucket, and as this bucket is already empty, we can check that. I know because I have created that. So AWS S3 LS and S3 colon slash slash name of the bucket. If we do that, the bucket is already empty. So you can simply run RB command, AWS S3 RB S3 slash slash, give the name of the bucket, and it removed the bucket. Now if you do AWS S3 LS, the output should be empty. I hope this was helpful. So far we have learned about AWS CloudShell overview. We have run some basic commands to explore that environment. We have worked on AWS IAM and S3. Now we will learn something interesting, which is AWS EC2. Okay, let us understand what is AWS EC2. It is Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, which will allow us to create, manage and monitor virtual servers in the cloud. Okay, before doing some hands-on for EC2 on AWS Cloud Shell, we need to consider a few things, to avoid any kind of cost when we play with certain commands. Okay, we did AWS IAM very safely and S3 because there is no direct cost to create any user, or let's say use that service, which is AWS IAM. Even for S3, if the bucket overall bucket size and number of buckets you have and the overall size is less than 5 GB, you won't be getting charged. So while learning or playing with AWS CLI, it is safe to use AWS S3 commands as well. The only thing you need to remember that the AWS that files that you are uploading inside your bucket should not be heavy, or let's say overall bucket size shouldn't exceed 5 GB. Okay, that is what you should remember. Now to avoid any cost for you, what I have done is I have already created an let's say GitHub repo for that, which you can refer. Okay, this is publicly available repo. Okay, it has everything. Let's say overview about Cloud Shell, why we are using Cloud Shell, key features, commands that we ran, okay, for Cloud Shell, commands that we executed for AWS IAM, okay, everything is available over here. Okay, so you can use it without any worry. Okay, so as talking about S3 bucket, you have to ensure that the bucket name has to be unique, as I mentioned already in the previous section. Okay, so there are multiple commands for S3 bucket, and now we will be working on EC2. Okay, so normally if you want to create an EC2 instance, you will click over here. You can click on launch instance. Okay, you will give any name to your EC2 instance, my Ubuntu VM, something of this sort, and then you will select the OS or AMI, Amazon Machine Image, that you want. The most important thing that you need to understand is whatever AMI you select, it has to be eligible for free tier. Otherwise, you will be charged. Okay, so select it accordingly. If you see this command, okay, which launches the instance for me, I have already given an AMI ID which is free tier eligible. If you check, it is 02B8 something. I have copied it from here. Okay, this is the reason I wanted to show you this, just to avoid any additional charges for this. Okay, so whatever we have done so far, it is completely covered under free tier, so you can do that without worrying about any cost. But while running any command related to EC2 instance, you need to be careful. So two things you need to ensure: one thing, which kind of AMI you select, and the next thing is that what is the instance type. So in my case, I have multiple instance types which are free tier eligible, and I am using T3 micro. So if you see this command, the instance type I have used over here is T3 micro. Okay, so now as we have understood this part, we can simply start working on our AWS EC2 commands. Okay, so first thing first, if at all you want to list the AWS images, the AWS instances, you can directly use this command, okay, to list the instances. So you can simply copy it from here, go to Cloud Shell and paste it, okay, and you can hit enter. So as of now, there is no EC2 instance, so there was no output over here. This particular command will give you a tabular output, which will look good. Otherwise, you can simply run this command as well: AWS EC2 describe instances. Okay, and you can hit enter. Right now there is no instance, so the reservations section is empty. Sorry. Now let me clear the terminal. Okay, so before creating, first we will create an key pair, okay, which will need to log into that EC2 instance. Okay, and then we will create a security group, then we will launch the instance, we will list it, and then we'll perform these operations like stop, start, and terminate the EC2 instance, and then we'll clean up the things, like we will delete the security group and we'll delete the key pair. Now let us use this command to create the key pair with name Cloud Shell key, and let us update the permissions as well, okay, with chmod command. So let us copy this, hit enter. So first command ran successfully. Now you can change the file permissions. So this is how we will create a key pair. What that command was basically doing, like AWS EC2 create key pair, we have to give the name of the key, which is hyphen key name. So key with name Cloud Shell hyphen key will get created. And why we are doing this? Because we want to create a .pem file. Okay, over here, and then we are changing the permissions. Okay, so read access only to user, that's what chmod 400 means. Okay, so we have already ran that command. Now what we need to do is we will be creating a security group. Okay, so what's the command to create a security group? AWS EC2 create security group, name of the group, which is hyphen hyphen group name of the group, CloudShell SG, and any description that you want to give. Okay, and then we have to also create some inbound rules as well, right? So inbound rules will come as authorized security group ingress rule. Okay, so this is how you can use this command. Okay, so simply copy it from here and paste it. Okay, so it created the group. Hit enter so that your SSH access for port 2022 from everywhere. Okay, as we are just learning this, it's okay to give this access, will be allowed. Okay, so you have created the security group, you have updated the security group with the rule. Okay, name of the security group is CloudShell SG. You can go here and check. Okay, these things, like if you click on key pairs now, so see this new CloudShell key got created, and then in security groups, if you see, CloudShell security group got created. If you select it, okay, so there is only one inbound rule. Okay, and then in outbound rules, by default it will be allow all traffic. Okay, so now what you need to do, as your security group is ready, then you have to run your main command to launch the instance. Okay, what is the command? AWS EC2 run instances, then image ID. Okay, so image ID is basically the image ID which I showed you earlier, image AMI ID. Okay, so AMI hyphen whatever is the ID. So this one is for Ubuntu EC2 instance, which is eligible for free tier. Okay, then the instance type. So you need to be very careful which instance type you are choosing. Even though some of the instances offer higher CPU and memory, you need to be careful with this because only few are falling under free tier category. Okay, so T3 micro is one of them, as I showed you earlier. Then we are providing the name of the key. Okay, hyphen hyphen key name and the key which we just created. Then the security group. This count part is very essential. Be careful you are not spinning multiple EC2 instances. Okay, and then we want to give name to our EC2 instance. So in this case, name of the VM will be Ubuntu -VM. Okay, how to give the name? We have to give a tag specification. Okay, and this is the command for that. Okay, so what you need to do now? Simply copy the command, go inside CloudShell. Before even pasting the command, let's check what's the current status. Do we have any EC2 instance? No. So right now in my account there is no EC2 instance running. So let me go here, paste the command. Okay, and let me hit enter. Okay, so it will take some time. You can scroll and check the details, security group and everything. All the details are available over here. To come out of this menu, you can press Q button. Okay, clear the terminal. So I'm using Control L, which is shortcut. Okay, either you can write this clear command or else you can use Control L. Okay, they mean the same. Okay, now if you click on refresh, you see Ubuntu VM got created. It is still initializing. Okay, so the status check is initializing, but this VM got created. Okay, now we will do one thing. We will try to list that particular VM. We have seen this earlier, like when, if at all we run this command before creating any of the instance, the output will be empty. Now we have one instance already there. So it will show that instance in tabular format where it shows the instance ID, status of the instance, and also the instance type of it. Okay. So these are the details we are looking for: instance ID, state name, and instance type. Okay, so it will show everything in tabular format. Okay, now let us check if the instance is ready. So once the status checks are passed, you can keep refreshing and check your instance is ready to log in. Okay, generally it takes 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, now meanwhile what we can do is can check on this box, okay, and click on connect. There are multiple ways to connect to the EC2 instance. You can directly connect it through this browser by this connect option, or as we are learning CloudShell, we will connect it through CloudShell with this SSH option. Okay, so command is already given. Okay, SSH-I CloudShell key.pem, which is already available locally on the CloudShell. Okay, and this is the command. Okay, either we can give this part after @ or we can simply give the public IP. Okay, so this is the public DNS. Either you can give public DNS or public IP, anything will work. You can simply copy, go here. Okay, and if I do ls, just to show you that we have cloudshell -key.pem file available over here. Okay, let me copy this. Let me click on instances and let me check the status check. You see 3 out of 3 checks are passed. Now what we can do is we can simply try to connect to this EC2 instance with the command which we copied, SSH-I. This key file is already available over here, and because this is Ubuntu VM, user by default is Ubuntu, and then you can use the public DNS or public IP. Okay, you can hit enter, type yes. You see, you are already inside your Ubuntu VM, so you can run some basic commands, pwd, which user you are, so who am I. Okay, you can also check, let's say, OS details like lsb release -a. So it shows the release is 24.04. Okay, Ubuntu 24.04.03. LTS is long-term support. Okay, if you want to come out of it, you have to click exit. This is how you can connect to any of the EC2 instance once you create it. Okay, now let me clear the terminal. Let me check the instance status. So if you see instance is running, if you want to stop this instance, okay, using command, I have already listed the command. Command is really very simple. AWS EC2 stop instances, and then you have to give the instance ID. Okay, when you will refer this, you have to replace this part with the actual ID of your EC2 instance. Okay, now let me do that. Let me first check the ID of the instance. I can check it from here. Okay, instance ID, I can copy directly it from here, or we can use the command to describe the instance. Okay, so list the instance as well, because we are listing the ID as well. So you can click over here, hit enter, so it will print the ID which we need now, and the command was AWS EC2. We want to stop this instance, stop instances, and then instance ID, so -- instance IDs, and give the ID. So copy ID from here or from your console, give that ID. Okay, so it will stop the instance. So you can go here, you will see that the instance state will be changing. So it is stopping it now. Okay, so it stopped the EC2 instance completely. Okay, now if I run that describe instances command again, okay, you see the status is stopped now. Let us try to start it. Sorry. So instead of stop instances, you will use start instances. Start instances. Okay, and then the instance ID. So it will start the instance ID. It will start the EC2 instance. You see, it started. It is still initializing, but the status is running now. Okay, so if you go over here and again try to describe, so the status is running. Now the most important and crucial part is, friends, once you are done with these commands, okay, you have to do the proper cleanup, as in you have to terminate the EC2 instance. You cannot keep your EC2 instance running, otherwise even if it falls under free tier category, if you keep it running for longer duration, you will be charged for that. Okay, to avoid this, we have to terminate the EC2 instance. So when you do all the stop, start, terminate actions from console, you will click on this instance state option and you will do the needful. Right now we will be doing everything through command. So to terminate the EC2 instance, we will use terminate instances instead of start over here in this command. Okay, so you can type AWS EC2 terminate instances, instance IDs, and name of the, or let's say ID of the EC2 instance. So if you refresh this, it will shut it down. Okay, and then once it completely terminates it, terminated word will appear over here. You will be able to still see this particular instance over here for around 15 to 20 minutes. No need to worry. What you need to focus on, instance state has to be terminated. Okay, it should show terminated written over here. Okay, we'll wait for that. Yeah, you see, so instance state is terminated. Okay, so we need not to worry about it now. Now if you try to list or describe the EC2 instance, it shows the state as terminated. So it will still appear in your UI for 15-20 minutes, and then everything will disappear from here. If you remember, before creating EC2 instance, we created two more things. We created a key pair, okay, and we also created a security group. Let us delete that as well. Okay, to delete the security group, you can use this command, which is AWS EC2 delete security group hyphen group name and name of the group, okay, which is CloudShell SG. Simply paste it. Okay, so it deleted the group, security group. You can go here and just verify that. Okay, so under network, click on security groups, and you see that particular group with name CloudShell -SG is deleted. Okay, and then we also want to delete the CloudShell key from AWS portal. Okay, so when we run this command, it won't delete that PEM file. We have to delete that separately. Okay, if I do ls over here, this PEM file we have to delete separately, but the key is already available on AWS. If you see, if you click on key pairs, this CloudShell key, how to delete it? Okay, command is very simple. AWS EC2, instead of create, while creating we used create key pair, now we have to use delete key pair and key name. Okay, so either you can copy it directly from here, or let me clear the terminal. AWS EC2 delete key pair, press tab button, name of the key name, and press CloudShell key. Okay, hit enter. So now it removed from AWS. Okay, so if you go over here and refresh this page, so that particular key is removed now. Now you have the local PEM file. You can also remove that file, and also the other two files which we created at time of learning S3 commands. Okay, so rm cloud shell, then file 1.txt, file 2.txt. Okay, all the three files we will remove. Click on yes, type yes over here, and that's it. If you do ls now, everything is removed. Let's clear the terminal. I hope you enjoyed this session. Stay connected for such wonderful videos.